Today's video, we're going to do the holidays and how this wonderful, wonderful universe that we live in is a big living thing that nature is teaching us through, and yet higher things than nature, but we won't get into those just now. So first of all, remember that January and February, January being the first month, it's the junction of activity, new airy, as in a notion underlying, now going from a U to an A, active, reference, vitally identified. So we're coming into a new era or a new arised vital identity. So the holiday that we celebrate on the very first day, being 1/1, is New Year's Day. When you talk about days of yore, it's the stuff you talk about from the past, the lore from the past. It's the yore, the vitally identified or ongoing reference expressed. So when you hear the word year, it's the vitally identified expression actively referenced. It's this year, the beginning of a new year, the now expressed plural. It's changing, the W. It's going from N, that actively dia directing, expressing a plural, a new thing from the one before. So it's new year, 1/1, actively active upon itself, and it's also ja, which adds to K, but then you could also say coming into tense, and then active. See what I mean? So ja, nueri. Now when you move into Groundhog's Day, being February 2nd, now February also has ruary at the end of it because it's reference underlying active reference vitally identified, but it's the familiar expressed base, or the familiar expression based, because it's February, which is just like ruary, because those are the two cold months, or the beginning months, where we come out of the cold. Now, also, if you know that the word rue, R-U, usually when it's spelled R-U-E, it's something you will rue the day. February are the days that are rue. They are the cold, like I said, they're the two cold months in most places, not everywhere, not the tropicals and that kind of thing, but you know what I'm saying. So, being that Punxsutawney is the place that Groundhog's Day happens, and Groundhog's Day is associated with the same thing happening again. It's not just a coincidence we have a holiday on 1/1 and a holiday on 2/2, because they're January and February. It's the form expressed base. It's a familiar thing from the expression before, based. So then we go into Groundhog's Day being in Punxsutawney. It's the placement or the potential underlying notion center. Okay, you take something from the underlying notion center. You pluck something out of the ground, punks, and then subject underlying, plus active plural notion expressed vital identity. You pull a thing out of the ground and he tells you what the weather's going to be. Punxsutawney. It even has the W in it for the W plural notion or nature expressed vital identity. Punxsutawney. It's a place where you pull something out of the ground and it says what the weather's going to be. It's literally what it translates into. And that's where Groundhog Day happens in, where it's based base. The thing that we base our life off of, the thing that nature is based off of, the weather. And then that moves us into the month of March, being the place where things start marching. But before I go into March, I have to do St. Valentine's Day. Now, I'll put the thing up here about St. Valentine, but if you just think about the month February being associated with form familiar or force expressed base reference. Now, just like January, J-A adds up to K, which is 11. Now, those 2 months being like each other, that is also 1/1, which is AA. Put together, that would be B. Now, when you go into February, F plus E is actually 6 plus 5, which also equals 11, which is K. So it's actively active, just like the one before it. Now, Jan goes into new or notion nature, and then Feb goes into form expressed base. See how it's like the familiar expressed base. Now, when you go into the word why Valentine's is the way it is, I'll show you, like I said, the stuff about Valentine. But being on 2/14, that is actually the based notion. And what is your base notion? Love. When it's the form expressed base, or the form familiar expressed base, it's the thing you love. It's your two of your notion. See what I mean? So it's like exactly why it's there, but we just don't see it and understand it until someone explains it to us and we go, oh, that's cool. But this is our whole lives and everything, including everything from the months, the moons, the stars, the races, the aliens, everything. It'll go into all that. But I got to get people to understand that it's this stuff first, because they got to understand how to see it and understand it, and it'll start happening for us if we apply it right. Not the weird mystic stuff, the stuff that we fix this planet first so we can be here to do the good stuff. So going from St. Valentine's Day into St. Patrick's Day. Now, like I said, you go into March. Now, the colors of St. Patrick are, well, he was a patron saint of Ireland. Now, if you think of Ireland, that's known for its green and orange and its shamrocks and that kind of thing. It also has like the orange hair and that kind of thing, well, the red hair. But now, the color orange is associated with arrangement or fermentation. Now, when things in March start marching, start moving, start forming, start fermentating, start organizing or arranging, they also grow and start being green. So the colors, orange and green, are associated with that for that reason. And it's also on 317, which is the concept to itself, or the unseen concept as it's going, on Q, 17, the active generated. So it's literally 3, the concept, on Q, and it's where things start growing, the shamrock. So now then you move on to Easter. Now Easter month, or Easter, the day can change. It can sometimes be in March, but it's usually in April. But the fourth month, or it's literally the first Sunday after the spring full moon. So when that happens, you understand that it's literally, we came from 1 to 2, and 1 and 2 make 3. Now we've gone to M, to manifestation, active, reference, concept here. So March, and it's literally coming into where things start happening and arising into the fourth month. So when you go into the fourth month, they don't necessarily appear to be real. They're in the middle of marching in May. So they appear to be real, not quite uprisal, but April. And that's where the water comes in so much, because it's not snow anymore, usually. So then Easter being the full moon, or after the full moon, the first Sunday, it's literally the establisher. Things that start to establish, where things are getting not uprisal and not appearing to be real, but the term before it. These words mean what they are. It's the active, in place, reference, identifying its active base. It's April, and then April, and we say it as a month. So then, with Easter just being the establisher, is when the sun comes back around 3 days later. Associate that with months, and you say it goes down in December, and then 3 days later, which is about 90 days, it can be Easter whenever the whole thing happens. That's where it throws it off a little bit. But it's like 3, 4, 5, or that movement from 3 to E, or from C to 5. You know what I mean? Those kind of movements are subtle, but they happen, and they make sense when you understand what they mean. And it explains the world to you in a way that you never thought you would have understood it, and why people are what they are and everything like that. So Easter, the establisher, or where the East Star, because everything rises in the East. It's the beginning of the year. Okay? So then you go into May. There aren't really any big days except for the end of May, the last Monday of May, because it's the May More Real Day. It's the MEM. It's the manifested expression that you manifest its ongoing reference, identified actively as an active base. It's the day where you remember somebody who's gone. Memorial. Now, is it just a coincidence that it's at the end of May, which May means to start, you may, and it's the end of what you may do, and it's a memorial. See? These things are just not coincidental. They're magic, and they're what we really are. It's what we're living in, and it's why they're the way they are. It's why people name them that. It's why those ideas were there and put into place. Now, things are necessarily right in front of us going wrong. We have to know that and do something about it. So the next would be Juneteenth. It's more of a newer celebrated thing. But now, look at what Juneteenth really is. It's 619, June 19, which is 6, the form familiar or force, being first, and then being subject. So when something becomes familiar in 6, now it becomes subject. It's where they are celebrating the freedom And 619 is also the area code of San Diego, which means san, which is like the subject-active notion or the subject-active nature. It's like a spirited word. San, or san, the spirit of or the subject of acting notion. And then Diego is to direct the identity through the ego or the express generated ongoing. It's a very peaceful place. I mean, things do happen there, of course, but most people just live their life and they don't really mess with each other. It's just crime still takes place, of course. It's just the vibe there is amazing. I've been there and it's actually quite amazing. But San Diego, and think of that being 619 and being that kind of thing, and now where people get to celebrate their ego or black or celebrate their freedom. I mean, of course, I don't agree with any of it. Everybody's free. They were always born free. We just get coerced into doing things. So now, then you think about where we're moving into right after that goes into Independence Day, which is 7/4, July 4th. Think of what July 4th really is. It's 7, which is the generated or severed and even, generated from something. And then 4, the director or the direction, Daya, coming through. So we're actually being generated a direction by saying it's independent. So we're actually not separating the words and saying we're in dependence. It's literally putting the word together and saying that if it's the day that we celebrate together as being independent, as a big place, unless that place is really cooperating and getting along and being open and honest and transparent with each other, it's not really a place where you are independent with each other. So it's literally a place where you're put into the dependence of what other people suggested, approved, and then started putting into place. And when you see it that way, you understand why it's GD. It's the generated director. Now, we skip over a couple months, well, at least August, and you move into September, and you think of Labor Day. Now, when a woman gives labor, the word labor means the whole, or the coming through bore. It's labor. You came through the active base, acting, base ongoing reference. So from a base, you ongo a reference. So when someone's in labor, you come from the hole, or you bore a hole into a piece of wood like BORE, or when someone's bored, there's a hole in their day or their hole in their, fun. I'm so bored. There's a hole. Literally, the word Labor Day is in September, the 9th month, the identified month, where things are pulling in all the fire, September. And literally, it is your identified labor, the thing that you work for, the thing that puts a hole in your life. To celebrate labor. I mean, it's almost an insult. I know we give it all these other terms, but just think of what it means. It means the hole in your life. If you're not going to decide what you're going to do to fill your time, that hole in your space, someone else will decide it for you. And there's all kinds of options. And there's all kinds of intriguing and enticing, benefits you can make if you go out, or have if you go out there and work for a whole bunch of money and call that your labor. But if it's not a labor of love, it's a labor of horror for the planet. We've got to see that for what it is. Labor Day is like a funny slap in the face, just like a lot of the holidays are. And even if people didn't do that on purpose, they add up in the most occult way, more than the occult breaks down their stuff. I mean, I can go into that, but I'm not trying to outdo anybody, because people put a lot of effort into their things. People have died. People have done all kinds of crazy things. And I'm not trying to, go against and talk bad about anybody who's suffered those consequences due to those practices and those rituals and those traditions. So that's why I try not to go into any of those things, because me being me, having this input of knowledge all at once, I don't really talk about those things, even though I know about them. And I can explain them to people when they start breaking them down and telling me stuff. I'm like, yeah, break that down. I'll show you. And then I can do the math on how it all works out. And it's like, it doesn't matter to me. It's just another possibility that I've seen and that I don't dive into because it takes me out of myself. So, sorry. Now we'll move on to the next month. We have October 31st, which is Halloween, where things are hollowing, where we celebrate the act being over, or the 10th, the junction of 31, the active unseen concept, where things start hallowing. It's on 10/31. Now you move into Thanksgiving, being the 4th Thursday. It's in the 11th month. It's the kinetic, and you want to be thankful for the 4, which is D, and Thursday, the thing that is plus here underlying reference subject, Daya, the active vitality, the things that you're thankful for on the 4th Thursday, the directive Thursday, one day after the middle of the week, and it's the D, the director. See what I mean? That's on the end of the year, the end of that month, and it's the day we're thankful for the end of things. And December comes into where the descent of the fire, or the D, then E backwards to C. See how E and C are literally the numbers 4, 5, 3, and then back to 5. When that kind of stuff happens, it means more than people understand, and we'll get into all those on different videos. So December, being the descent of the ember, on 12/25, we celebrate the active base of our vital identity. And it's supposed to be, in some religions, Christ, the concept here that rises. Now, the word mass, you would say MASS when it's a manifested active thing subjected upon itself. 2 S's mean it's upon itself. Now, you say Christ as the concept here, reference, identified subject plus. So it's the unseen here, reference, identified subject plus. It's who you are, the thing that is the livingness within us, as a MAS. 1 S, because it's outwardly towards everything. It's the manifested active subject. So it's actually the concept that here rise together to manifest as its subject. And we're supposed to celebrate the livingness of us. At the end of the year, we're thankful, and now we're celebrating it, that we made it through the end of the year. And then we go back over with the whole course all over again, back into Jah New Era, the new era. These are simply the holidays, and why they are their dates, why they are their locations on the map or on the calendar. It's the time map, I guess you can call it. But, they may seem simple the way I just spit it out like that, because I'm not looking at anything, I'm just talking. I had to remember a couple things because I have a lot of information in my brain, and I'm trying to do everything in one take because I feel like it's not real if it's not. And I want to talk to the recorder or the microphone or the camera however I would to a person if they were sitting here with me. So I may tangent, but that's normal. And I don't cut that stuff out because I don't want to. I'll make a couple cuts here and there because I meant to do Groundhog Day into March, and then I almost started talking about St. Patrick's Day before I did Valentine's Day, so I stopped it and clipped it there. But other than that, I usually don't do anything like that. But if I was sitting with somebody in person, of course that can be avoided, and that's what I prefer. I don't want to be edited, but at the same time, I know people don't listen to things for a long time, and if they hear somebody fumbling and being too human, they'll be like, whoa, you can't be enlightened. I'm like, oh, I know a lot about a lot, and there aren't too many things I really don't know, other than details of each individual, which actually don't matter, because I feel everything else, and I understand it. That's why I don't go into situations that are going to be harmful to me at this point, because there's nobody backing me up to do the big things, and the big things are going to take a lot of risk. And I don't want to go out and get myself hurt or killed. I don't want to be gone from this beautiful planet, not able to help people the way that I'm meant to. So that's what I'm here for, doing the best I can. Everybody else is already exposing everything, so why do I need to keep repeating what they're saying? If you don't see what's going on, you're choosing not to. But I want to show you the underlying stuff that adds it all up. And then when you start asking questions, we'll go into things that need to be done. And that's where we start making progress in actually living a new world instead of complaining about it. Not necessarily complaining about it, but just exposing it and not really doing anything but that. Because we don't know where to start with the physical interaction with other people until they decide to be courageous enough to come back together with nature and other people and rebuild this whole thing before it's destroyed. That's the only way to defeat this bad guy demon out there in nature going on. It's the other side of humanity. It's a bigger side at this moment, at least it seems like it. But we have to do something if we care. And I'm trying to recruit whoever I can out there to join me, because I do care enough to put myself and everything I believe in on the line to do this. Everything I know of, everything I know to be true, because I know where I go when I die. So I'm not afraid of death, but I'm not expecting other people to just throw themselves in it without understanding why. And there is a deep, deep, deep meaning to all this. So, like I said, I can't really talk about that unless it's in real time in some way, preferably in person. So, that's all for this video. And until next time, God bless. Peace.